I'd like you to call all your friends, tell all your friends that we have an exciting show today. I have a beautiful guest that we do business with at Strather Associates, HJS Realty. Her name is Crystal Gunn, and I've known her for quite a while, and she is truly a professional. She's with Huntington Bank. Good morning, Crystal.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Well, you know, we've been trying to get you for sure on our show so that we can share your wealth of knowledge and your professionalism with my audience.
Yes.
And with other DAR members. This is Detroit Association of Realtors, and we are affiliated with them and our network. We call it DAR Network now, and that is going to be pretty much rolling out. And so we would like to just kind of get into you a little bit. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Certainly.
Are you a Detroiter, for starters? Were you born here and all that kind of
Born
stuff?
and raised.
Yeah, are you from the east side or the west side?
West side.
Oh, well, that's good.
Cass Tech graduate.
Oh, really? Cass Tech graduate. What year? Can I ask?
Oh, you cannot ask that.
Okay.
86.
86. Okay, that's good. Hey, from Cass Tech. Okay, you know, we get quite a few Cass Tech and Renaissance students here, and I guess there's a reason. You know, the cream rises to the top, right?
Absolutely. We're everywhere.
So, Crystal, how did you get in the real estate business? You know what I mean? What happened there? But hold on for a minute.
Okay.
Let's start from you graduating from Cass. Then what happened? You graduated in 86. Did you go to college?
Michigan State.
You went to Michigan
go
State?
Go green, go white.
Okay. Now, you said go green, go white. I just rather for them to go green. You understand? But that's okay. You understand? You know, I'm a kind of a go blue guy, you know. But,
well.
but in any event, I forgive you for that, you know. So you came out of Michigan State with a business administration.
Absolutely.
I see, I got that right. And then you probably did something before real estate, right?
Well, went into banking and finance. I went into the credit union business.
Oh,
Wound up being vice president of a credit union in Pontiac.
okay.
And then, as luck would have it, I got married, and my husband at the time pulled me into this business.
Okay.
And all of these years later, I can't seem to get out.
Well, that's good. I assume you're very happy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you've done a lot of deals over the years. So how long have you been with Huntington Bank, may I ask?
2 years.
2 years. And who were you with before?
Right before Huntington, I ran a housing counseling agency, so NID, housing counseling agency. And then prior to that, I managed a processing team for Citibank.
Oh, okay. For Citibank. Okay. So you got quite a few years. You're very well in depth and experienced in this business. There's no question
Yeah,
about it.
because before the industry crashed, we had a broker shop up on Livernois. So my husband and I
Yes.
had a mortgage broker shop. So we've been around for a long time.
Okay. So you were putting mortgages together at that point and kind of placing it.
Absolutely.
Do you still have that mortgage license?
Yes.
We may have to do some talking. So now you are with Huntington Bank, and you are an employee of Huntington
Correct.
Bank, right? And so you provide all types of mortgages. So just give us the spread. What does Huntington Bank offer? You know, just give us the menu, because Huntington Bank seemed to be very creative. I've done quite a few deals with Huntington, and I know, as you know, we have some deals cooking now. But I don't really, myself, really know the whole spread.
Okay, so Huntington, FHA, Fannie Mae, all Fannie Mae loans.
I'm asking you a question.
Yes.
What's the primary difference between FHA and Fannie Mae? Are they both 3%? Is one 3 and 3.5%? Or what's the primary difference?
Fannie Mae, first-time home buyers, 3% down payment.
Okay.
FHA, 3.5.
Okay. Is that basically the only difference?
Well, no. So FHA guidelines are a little more lenient
Okay.
than Fannie Mae. Fannie Mae has a FHA comparable product
Okay.
called Home Ready. Guidelines are a little more lenient, still 3% down. First-time home buyer, 3% down. If you've had a previous home, 5% down. So Fannie Mae is conventional.
Oh, it's really conventional
It's conventional
financing. Oh, I see.
financing, yeah.
But conventional with just 3% down?
Exactly.
Well,
Most
that's
people-
cool.
Exactly. Most people automatically think conventional, I got to put 20% down.
No, let's
3%.
see. So So does FHA now have points still? Does that still play? You know, you get points based on your rate. You can buy your rate down and all that.
You can buy your rate down. You can also, there's FHA also has primary mortgage insurance, so you're paying that for the life of the loan.
The PMI, but can't you refi or no?
You
can't
can.
drop,
You can refinance
or
out of it.
does it? Can you drop it once your loan to value ratio is 80%?
Not on FHA
Not
anymore.
on FHA. How about Fannie Mae?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
I see. Okay then. So it's fine differences, but they're both governmental agencies. And Fannie Mae, do they kind of roll this program out with a lot of the homes they foreclosed, don't they? They seem to power up with that, you know. I see. Okay, so but with HUD, sells a home on HUDusa.org website. They will finance the property too. They sell it and they can finance it. FHA can finance it. So when we talk about HUD, we're really talking about FHA or Fannie Mae, those two entities, right?
Yeah, and remember, Fannie Mae also has a product called home style renovation, where if you're purchasing or refinancing, you can get money to do renovations on that property.
But it's up to the after repair value
Correct.
only, right?
Correct.
So does anybody exceed after repair value?
Detroit Home Mortgage.
Detroit Home Mortgage and only Detroit Home Mortgage.
Only Detroit Home Mortgage.
So we got two projects. We got FHA, we got Fannie Mae, and we got Detroit Home Mortgage. Now, Detroit is really blessed that we have Detroit Home Mortgage. I mean, it's the only product like this in the entire country.
Correct.
Probably in the world.
Correct.
In the world. And for those of you who are not familiar with Detroit Home Mortgage, Detroit Home Mortgage will use regular FHA guidelines, except that they use 20-year amortization rather than 30-year, which pushes the debt constant or the mortgage payment up. 20 years makes a pretty high payment.
But there is no primary mortgage insurance.
There's no primary, but it still can't make up for the 20 years. I mean,
No.
I understand what you're saying. It's very substantial.
Right.
And then, so they will use regular HUD guidelines. I think here I am talking. I should just let her do the talking. What is the credit score that they're looking for?
So they'll go as low as a 620.
620.
Well, technically they say they'll go as low as a 600, right? 640 is really a sweet spot.
Oh, that's their sweet spot.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because understand Detroit Home Mortgage is, because it's a portfolio product.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to hold on to that product?
Correct.
But it has insurance to it now. You can, in the case of the default, right?
Right. But it's so we want to make sure that the people that are getting those mortgages
Yes.
aren't going to go into default.
Right.
Because you're already giving them more than probably the house appraises for.
Right. So what happens here is if in the event, so there's a second mortgage you can get.
Correct.
Up to what? How much over and above?
150% of after renovated appraised value.
150%.
Right.
Now I thought it was 75,000 fixed.
Oh,
no.
you're just talking about the second. The
The second.
second loan should max out at $75,000.
But now that's interesting. The 150%. Is it 150% or 75, whichever is the highest?
Well, that total loan, first and second loan amount, can't go above. Well, will go 150% above the after renovated appraised value.
Okay.
But that second mortgage can only be $75,000.
Okay, that's
max.
cool. So let me understand this here. So the maximum amount the second mortgage is going to be is $75,000.
Correct.
They would approve a loan of up to 50% over and above the after repair value. So if the appraised value was $50,000, essentially they would give a mortgage for $75,000.
Correct.
I got you. Well, that's pretty cool. Now let me give you another illustration. Okay. So this is why I love Detroit Home Mortgage, and I hope you all are paying particular attention to this. So, Crystal, if there's a case where, say, there's, one of the things I love about Detroit is we have so much buoyancy in the marketplace.
Oh, absolutely.
You can look at one house and say, what is worth? You get three different answers: 25, 50, 75.
Right.
And in the meantime, the homeowners, they all got an $80,000 or $90,000 mortgage. They hope it's worth 75
Right.
or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's tremendous buoyancy, and people really, honest to God, don't know what values are. It's kind of like what you say, what the purchase agreement says almost.
Correct.
You know what I mean? That's kind of guided. These are arm's length people that have made a deal. Do you all hear that? Now I want you to pick up the clues here. What the purchase agreement said. Write that down. So, but let's just say you got a house that you buy for 20 grand. You put in another 20, you got 40 in it. The after repair value could be 80. Now, that's very possible and typical. And but so if it's 80, so essentially under Detroit Home Mortgage, you can actually finance 120,000. Think about it. Now, in other words, you bought it for 20. You put 20,000 in it, but the after repair value is 80. But you could turn around and sell that house really for up to 120 grand. Or, yeah, go ahead.
You could.
Okay, I mean, go ahead. I just want to talk to you about
Because
this
Detroit
now.
Home Mortgage will also cover appraisal gaps. So if my appraised value came back at 80 and I sold it for 120
Right.
or 100, right?
Right.
Technically, it will cover that appraisal gap. You can use it for
Because
that.
it's 50%.
150% above.
That's why 80, 120, it goes up to. But now they probably push back a little bit, but they want to make sure it's a kosher deal and all of that kind of stuff.
And we don't want you to go into it saying, I'm going to use this for an appraisal gap, right? So if the purchase price said $100,000 and the appraisal came back at 90,
Okay.
right?
Right.
Well, you thought it would appraise for $100,000. You
Right.
didn't already know that it was going to appraise for 90.
Right.
So,
Well, I can understand that. We're advocates over at Strather Academy
Right.
and HJS Realty, and we kind of fight the good fight. And I've told this story last year on Pennington. There was 2 houses sold between Outer Drive and 7 Mile, one for 127 and one for 137. They were renovated very well by a young lady, and we were just really happy. And her whole philosophy was just lay it out and you can get your price. Because in reality, in Bagley, those homes were really going for 80 and 90. Now they're all up to 120,
Oh,
130,
absolutely.
140. So they've appreciated quite a bit within the last year. But one of the shocking things that happened is just a few weeks before these homes on Huntington sold, we were trying to sell Barry Gordy's senior home on Myers and Outer Drive.
okay.
And we had a $149,000 offer, but it came back at 140. Now the lady said she refused to sell it for 140. She was incensed about it, and I was saying, "Gosh, Lee, you know what I mean?" But then a few weeks later, these homes sold. Maybe a month later. Now, of course, that pushed the value up, and I'm sure
Correct.
Barry's house wouldn't be restricted to some $140,000 because there was a sale. So. When I look at Outer Drive, all these fine homes
Beautiful
on Outer
homes.
Drive, beautiful homes, and they're psychologically depressed.
Yes.
So, as being my advocacy, say I want to sell it at a very, very good price. Because if I sell it at a good price, that will boost the comps for the entire area up. You understand what I mean? Now, you say, well, Herb, is a buyer going to buy it at this great price and all this,
Yes.
And this is one of the concerns. I think the sophisticated buyer should.
And
Now,
they do.
And they do, especially if they can get the right improvements and have the right quality of life, because would you agree that the values are definitely coming back?
Values are skyrocketing, and I love it because it's Detroit.
Right. They're absolutely jumping. Are you seeing values jump in the neighborhoods
Yes.
themselves? Like, Sorrento. I mean, in other words, we know. How about west of Wyoming? Have you seen anything yet, really, west of Wyoming yet?
Well, yeah.
I mean, values, Tracy Street, all these other streets, are they jumping pretty
They
good?
are jumping to now. Of course, they're not jumping as rapidly as or as great as the normal Rosedale, Grandmont areas.
Well, here, let me compare west of Wyoming as opposed to east of Wyoming.
Okay.
East of Wyoming is Bagley. Let's say between 6 and 7 miles.
Yes.
It seemed to be on fire to me.
Correct.
So let's go west. Let's say Griggs, Eileen, Pinehurst.
You see
We-
the values jumping as well.
You see a comparable value? Well, that's good to know. That is good to know. Listen here, I'm getting an education too. And we're getting an education because, it's like all hands on deck because things are moving and you got to keep these relationships and tentacles out there to
Absolutely.
kind of really feel what's going on in the marketplace. We're going to take a break for a few minutes, and during this break, we want you to call all of your friends. And my Facebook friends, how are you all doing? Just call up everybody, let them know that we have Crystal Gunn. She's going to do it for us. Thank you. We'll be right back with you. Everyone, I want to show you something. We're in a fabulous place. It's summertime, and do you see that? I know it looks a little foggy, but that is the Detroit River. We're downtown Detroit in the D, and it's a wonderful place to be.
Absolutely.
And we are I'm talking to Crystal Gunn from Huntington Bank, which is really just doing a lot of fabulous things in the community, and we really appreciate Huntington very much. We were talking about the Detroit home mortgage and the buoyancy in the marketplace. You know, these are tools we all can use to get to where we need to be. You understand? So Detroit home mortgage is certainly a great tool. So let's keep on down this conversation. Does Huntington have any personal products themselves?
Well, we have portfolio products as well.
So what are your portfolio? 20% down for conventional mortgage?
No, still 5%.
5% down for conventional mortgage from your point. Okay.
We also have the ability to do non-warrantable condos.
Non-warrantable.
Meaning not FHA approved.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, that's huge.
That is huge.
But I think they have to evaluate to make sure that the association dues are not upside down.
Well, yeah, they're still going to do all of that. But
they underwrite it, but they can do the condos.
Correct.
I see. Well, that's pretty wonderful. Now, what we're interested in is income property. In terms of underwriting income property. Let's say if a person makes $16,000 a year. Now, that's not very much money.
Correct.
But let's say they don't really have any really expenses. They got a free and clear car. They even got maybe $8,000 in the bank. They're frugal, and they got a decent credit report. So now they want to buy a house for $50,000. Okay, so if they bought a house for $50,000 and they want to get if they well, let's say if they want to put $10,000 down, okay, because income property, if you don't live in it, I assume is 20% down. I could be
correct.
wrong. Okay, so I got that right. So now we're going to talk about how you can create and leverage, but I'm not going to put her on the spot too much.
Yeah,
so you're going to
talk about that.
I'm going to talk about this, but you got to read between some lines too. You understand what I mean? She said, I'm going to talk about this. I can understand that. We like to leverage real estate because we believe there's so much equity in the real estate. Why not try to borrow it all anyway? But that's not the purpose of the conversation right now. The purpose of this is an underwriting question. If someone, let's just say the home is $100,000. And if they don't have too much credit, 35%, I assume, is your debt to income. Tell me about your underwriting. Don't let me assume it right now. So, if what is your debt to income, or should I say, how would you underwrite a buyer as far as they have so much income? Their housing allowance can't be more than 35% of that amount, or 40%, or how do you do it?
It's really going to depend on that individual buyer. So those guidelines may say 40% debt to income ratio, right? For, let's say, a buyer with less than great credit, may have a tighter debt to income ratio restriction, right?
Okay.
Or someone who has less assets because there's less compensating factors that diminish the risk.
Okay, then it's a package. You put it all together.
Absolutely.
You know, in one case it may be 40%, and somewhere else you'll take it down to 35 because of these other factors. So
it's all about putting that package together. So obviously, especially when you start talking about investment property, the higher your credit score, the better.
What's your minimum? 680?
680.
Yeah, I'm getting it right now. I'm getting this right.
So 720 is always a sweet spot, right?
The 720 is the sweet spot.
But
now, let me say this: if you're living in that property, it's a different question.
It's a totally different
It's
scenario.
not then an investment. So
Correct.
you can go in now. In many cases, people become property. They don't have to pay property taxes.
Right.
Tax exempt, and if they have a fixed income and they got to foreseeably be on that fixed income, can it be underwritten based on no property taxes, or do you consider the property taxes anyway?
Well, if that property is already exempt, the issue always becomes
Well, if they're buying it, it may not be exempt.
exactly, and so right.
But I mean, they go down and they could. Well, that could be an issue because they're probably not going to exempt them until they own it.
Correct.
I see. Now that makes some
Yeah.
sense.
Right.
That makes some
So
sense.
we're going to go with whatever that property tax is at time of closing.
So if the property is already tax exempt, you would, I would assume, just want to make sure it's going to stay tax
Correct.
exempt. So if it's already tax exempt, they got a good chance of it, and if they qualify,
That it could stay
then
tax
they could
exempt.
stay
Right.
tax exempt. But if it's tax exempt and they have a higher income, that you would say, well, it's not going to be tax exempt after closing.
Right.
I see. So here's the question: when you're underwriting, if it's a two flat, will you, or two or three or four, will you use the rents to
We
help
can
them
use-
qualify?
Yeah, you can use that rent if it's currently rental.
How much
income.
of the rent? 75%?
75%.
Look, y'all, I'm
You know,
hitting this so good. Because
100%.
we do quite a business, a lot of business, and of course we have to teach this
Exactly.
to everybody that's listening, many of the students and interns and colleagues and my DAR members. And DAR, Detroit Association of Realtors, we got it pretty cool. We know how to work this really good. But we're a lot different than other associations because we have things and issues that they don't have.
Absolutely.
Just Detroit Home Mortgage, for example, trying to work that situation out. And we get into some of the other things that are very, very unique about us.
Just a reminder on Detroit Home Mortgage, that's primary residence only.
That's primary, but it can be a two flat.
Correct.
Can it be a four flat?
As long as you're going to occupy,
The house.
yeah.
I'm asking you a question. So you buy the house, you stay there 2 years, and then you go buy you a bigger house someplace. Do you have to pay the mortgage off?
No.
So how long, is there a stated minimum period of time? Not stated, but you're buying it, they don't want you to
Like
be
you have to
disingenuous.
stay, right. Well,
That's
yeah,
it.
they don't want you to then turn around
And
2
say,
months
I
later.
changed
right,
my mind.
right. Right.
And I can understand that. And people could be, tempted to do that because if you buy it as a residence that you're moving in, you're only putting 3% down. And if not, you're going to put, 20% down. So it is a significant difference. So you have the conventional product. That's pretty good. Do you award any grants yourself or
No.
anything like that? Will you accept Mr. grants
Yes.
or the other grants? You will factor those in?
We are a Mr. lender,
Right.
and Mr. now has a conventional product as well as the traditional FHA product.
Is Mr. a long process?
No.
Or they're pretty quickly. They're
So typically, the bank will process the loan as the bank would process the loan ordinarily.
okay.
Once we've satisfied all of our conditions, we
Right.
then have to send that package to Mr.
Okay.
Right
It's
now,
all in order. Mr. can do it in a few days, maybe.
well, right now their turn time is 7 days, and they're taking every bit of those 7 days.
Okay.
We're at the height of purchase season.
Oh, right,
Typically, it was
right.
48 hours. Now it's
Okay.
been pushed to 7
Okay.
days.
Then, but 7 days is not
It's not.
unreasonable.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And some people may not even know where to go, whether to go to Mr. or not. They just put the application in,
That's right. And I'm under the thought process is I will leave no money on the table for my buyer.
Okay.
Right.
So you're a buyer advocate. If you can find money
If I
for
can
them,
find it,
you have suggestions for them.
absolutely.
To help make their, because you've done that with us. I know that.
Hallelujah.
And hallelujah. Listen, everybody. Crystal really works with the buyers, and this is what you
I
want.
do.
You want an experienced mortgage officer to work with you, so you don't bump your head.
Yeah.
Herb, have you considered this or that, and things like that? And we're in a much better position to assist others if we have someone that is knowledgeable and will share that knowledge with us so that we can help.
Absolutely.
So Crystal, we're fixed to get into some other very interesting questions, and so she know I kind of briefed her that I'm going to, kind of quiz her on some things, so that we can make it clear.
Can I talk about something for 1 second?
Yes.
Student loan debt.
Oh, yes.
Can we just touch on that?
Please.
So I had an agent call me one day and said that they were telling their clients that they could not purchase if they had student loan debt. That's not true, right? So there's each program has its own guidelines as it comes to student loan debt.
Okay.
So I always say, call the bank to find out what the guidelines are. Because it's
Right.
our job to stay on top of the guidelines, not the real estate agent. So
Right.
just because you have student loan debt does not prohibit you from buying a house.
Well, I mean, but it depends on how much those payments are too, right?
Well, it can,
Well, I'm asking you a question. Do you know any programs that can reduce student debt,
oh,
for
no, I
example?
don't know.
Okay, there. So, I mean, let me say this, it's still got to be factored into underwriting.
It's going to be factored into underwriting. Some programs say if you're in an income-based repayment plan, we're going to take that payment. Some say if you're in an income-based repayment plan and the payment is zero, we'll take the zero payment,
Okay.
which is relatively new.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Right.
I'm asking you one other question since we're talking. Will you use Section 8?
Oh, absolutely.
So, in other words, if you got a Section 8 rental certificate, you convert it to the housing certificate, they can use that. Now, when you could use Section, do you consider the additional income, or do you rely on that Section 8?
Nope. So if they have that job, whatever that job is, income, plus that subsidy voucher from Section 8,
Right.
that then determines what their monthly income is.
Those two together would
Yeah.
determine that.
And then with that voucher, they're going to say what the max mortgage payment they can make. So we can't go over that maximum mortgage payment.
Well, let's say if they get an $845, if they have an $845 certificate, and they got to contribute $145, so they got $700. You have to factor it all in, but it will not exceed the $845 in that case.
Well,
typically.
the Detroit Housing Commission is going to say they can't have a mortgage payment over this certain amount, over X amount. So that, let's say that payment might be $1,000, but they're only getting from Detroit Housing Commission a $400 a month subsidy.
Okay, so they just said, as long as they can add to 600, and they got. So your suggestion, this is new. I'm glad to know this. That you're suggesting that your actual payment could be greater than the subsidy.
Correct.
Oh, that's great.
Absolutely.
Listen, y'all, hang on. Listen, Facebook, are y'all listening to this? I want you to take notes and call all your family, your friends, and tell them there's fixed to be a show. Now, listen,
Yes.
We're talking about creating wealth. It's very simple. There's great buoyancy in the marketplace. There's $2 billion worth of equity to be harnessed in our community. And where did the $2 billion come from? There's 70,000 homes that are at least have $30,000 worth of equity. And the truth of the matter is that is way more than that. So 30 times 70,000, take out your calculation and tell me if I'm right, if that's $2 billion. And you tell me if I'm right, $2 billion could make 2,000 millionaires.
Absolutely.
You understand? Or it could make 4,000 half a millionaires. I mean, we have great wealth in our community. And you know what is great? Some of our students, like Paula Jones, she have taken $6,000 and ran it up to $6,000 a month cash flow.
Nice.
Now that's over $500,000, and she did it in 14 months. Sean Davis did the same thing. He took $12,000. He didn't do quite good as Paula, but he bought 9 homes and they're free and clear. So really, he's probably close to her also. So you can take and leverage these homes, and we're going to invite all of you to join us on SA Real Estate app. SA Real Estate app. We have an app where we roll out methodologies and things to you. And even inside, we have what you call a mastermind group. A mastermind group. Now, when we get to the mastermind group, we really penetrate and show you just absolutely how to make money without investing any cash whatsoever, but putting your time and energy in it. You know, like sheriff sales, for example. You can certainly control deals. You got 6 months to pay. It's free financing. Now, don't go out right now and go to the sheriff's sale and buy a house because you don't know what you're buying. You can buy a second mortgage. You'll be cooking in the kitchen by yourself, burn the whole thing up. I tried cooking in the kitchen one time by myself, and you know what happened? I burned all my eyebrows out. You see that? So anyway, no. So don't be cooking in the kitchen without having a little help. You understand? Messing with that greasy stuff. So Crystal, it is really exciting talking to you here. Now, Crystal, we're talking about underwriting. How does Huntington underwrite? And I found something out during our break, and that first we left with the Section 8. Crystal, are you suggesting that Huntington is one of the only banks, or the only bank as far as you know?
It's the only one as far as I know.
Now, do y'all understand this? If you have a Section 8 rental certificate, right? And in other words, you can take and convert that to a housing certificate. You have to call Lisa, Mr. and I'll try to get that number. If anybody really wanted, you can let me know. John, let's take it and put it online. Let's remember, just go to SA Real Estate app, and we're going to put that whole program on the line. You can convert your housing certificate, your rental certificate, to a housing certificate and use it. You know what? It's so amazing because many people in that category would not have to pay property taxes. And if they could somehow negotiate where they will not have to pay property taxes, for example, maybe this will work, maybe not. Let me ask you. So if they went and did a temporary land contract, they had ownership, they went down, and then they became tax exempt. Now they want to finance the contract. It's like, kind of, I believe, you tell me it's more of a purchase almost because it's like 90 days old. How do you treat land contracts or seller-held mortgages?
So we're going to look at it as a land contract.
Okay.
First thing we're going to look at is, was it recorded?
Okay.
So if it was recorded with the county, you've had it for 12 months, you can refinance it. It's not a purchase.
It's a refinance,
Right.
okay.
Because you own it. Less than that, you can do it as a purchase.
Let's say if you bought it 2 months ago, you recorded it, then it's really a purchase, right?
Correct. If you were trying to get it, it's a purchase.
Is there a problem with it? Do you frown on those or anything like that? No. So that's good. Now, do you have to record the land contract itself, or can you record a memorandum of a land contract? Because some people don't want to put all those terms in it. You know what I mean? In other words, you can record the memorandum, but the land contract, because for a lot of reasons,
Right.
you know, the assessment may go up, all kind of stuff.
So remember how I said the higher your credit, the more programs you're open to?
Right.
That goes in that sort of thing too, where
Right.
there's some programs that your land contract doesn't have to be recorded if you can prove those 12-month payments. So it's a case-by-case situation.
Right. And improving that you make payments, I think it's very important you tell me that you do it by money order, cashier's check, or check.
Check. Check or transfer from your bank account. We're going to look at, we're definitely not looking at receipts. We're not looking at receipts.
Now listen to this, y'all. We all listen to this. She says that if you pay your rent by cash,
Oh, God.
you're not going to count it. How about if you won't count that? Because you could go back and get all the receipts you want, right?
And you can't prove where the cash came from.
Well, yeah, that's true. Like, because if you say I took it out of my bank, then you would say, well, you was at the bank, why did you get a check?
Exactly.
Now, if you get your check, a lot of times, you know, if you say I got it from my pay, I got paid $800, I went and paid my rent for $600 the next day.
Nope. I went and paid my rent for $600, but I took $600 out of my bank account so I could see that $600 withdrawal. I went and got a $600 money order because there has to be some proof where that money actually made it to. So that money order is going to say, or that check is going to say who it was paid to. Yeah, just don't pay with cash.
Okay, as long as you pay and get at least a money order. You like checks.
We like checks.
But you will accept, because you want a checking account.
Correct.
Right? You want to check it has more credibility
Right.
as a checking account.
And if you're at your bank and you're pulling it out of your bank, have them cut a check if you don't have.
You mean a cashier's check?
Yeah, have them cut a cashier's
I mean,
check.
does it matter if it's cashier's check or money order? Isn't that about the same category?
Well,
or not quite?
So, yeah, because some banks will call it a money order, some banks will call it a check.
Okay.
But when I was talking about money order, I was talking about when you go to the corner store to get that. Don't do that.
You would prefer for them not to do that,
Don't
you
do
know.
that.
But our economy is like that. A lot of people get their checks, they have a cash advance, they just deal with
God.
Frank
No.
or Sam.
Right.
You know what I mean? Hey, Sam.
Yes.
You know. So.
Hey.
Yeah, so
I check.
So let me just get into a couple of things that my audience here have been waiting to hear. if when you're qualifying someone, we want to know what is a seller's concession. Now, sometimes you've told me that you won't do the 6% seller concession because you may give them a grant or something.
Well, guidelines say up to 6%.
Right, up to 6%.
Typically, 3% is the max if you're putting 3 to 5% down. If you're putting 10% down, now you can get the full 6%.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're putting 10% down, you can get, but if you put in a smaller amount down, now that may account for something. And this is a really quick story. We were doing business with a Huntington officer a few months back, and we got to the closing, and it was a lot of money. It was more money than the buyer. She was a little shocked. She said, "Gee, I didn't know it was that much." And I had not looked at the purchase agreement. I slept through it. So I said to my agent, I said, "Gee whiz, we should have increased the price and have the seller give some credits." I said, "It may be too late to do that now." I said, "But we're going to call the bank and find out." So it was amazing. So I had to go to the men's room. I came back just for the timetable, and she was hollering and screaming. I said, "Well, what's the deal?" She said, "The bank said they'll do it, they'll do it, they'll do it." I said, "Really?" I said, "Boy, that was quick." So what happened is that they were able to increase the price. We was going to increase it 6%. They came back and said, "You can't increase it, but I think it allows us to increase it 4%. And so therefore, and the seller paid 4%, and it reduced her cost. In other words, she was able to finance her closing costs like that. So just remember that there should never, ever, ever, ever be a case, theoretically, where you don't have seller credits. If the seller wants $100,000, give the seller $105,000 and tell them to pay, so the buyer can, because they always want to take and reduce their cash down, and not unless somebody want to just put more money down just to put it down. If you can finance it and qualify for it, it makes sense, right?
It makes sense, absolutely.
So it's up to 6%.
Up to 6%.
Well, let me say, under our purchase agreements, the way we hook them up, sometimes we say no prorations. It's just part of the agreement. The seller should pay just no proration of property taxes. That's not really a seller concession. No. That's just an agreement. I see. Now, in the standard multi-list purchase agreements, in my purchase agreements, our purchase agreements gives the buyer a chance for an inspection. The deal that we just finished, there was an inspection. You guys came back and said, "You want this and this done." And I got to finish that in order to close this deal Friday, right? I got to get this deal done. But the buyer did their own inspection now.
Correct.
Did you see it by any chance?
No, that's for them.
That's good.
Yes.
I don't want you to see it. The buyer did their own inspection, and this inspector, she paid $375, and she went through it like you won't believe it. She gave up all kind of stuff.
Right.
And there was some kind of improvements. I said, I'll do it. I'm walking through there. Yeah, I agree that need to be, which may not be a technical violation.
Correct.
But, they wanted to improve.
Because she wanted more stuff done than we required for our collateral to be done.
Right.
Because they weren't hazardous to the homeowner.
Right.
Right.
Right. And so the purchase agreement provides that the buyer can walk.
Absolutely.
So essentially, I now, as a seller, got to do this stuff. Now, I don't want to do this work. I'm going to do the work for the bank. But I don't want to sit there and buy the lady the bathroom stuff, the new mirror. I don't want to install it. I do not want to put the countertop in. I want somebody else to do it because she may not like the color.
Right.
You understand? So tell me what I can do, Crystal. Can I take and have her get her own contractor? And then I make the check out to that contractor. I want her to sign off.
Right.
So I might put her name on the check too. I don't want liability. And I can get a contractor. I'd rather for her to get her own, get me off the hook, right? You get your own contractor, and I pay them and put your name on, and you sign and release me, and I hope the guy does a good job. But I don't want to do the work.
You don't want to do it.
And if I call my guy, he said, "Well, your guy still did it, Herb. Your guy still did it." No. Do you have somebody you want?
Right.
And I can recommend you someone. If you don't have anyone, and you make sure that they approve it to you, but you sign off, I hereby release the seller, me. And I'm not, and so at the time of closing, I can tell the title company to direct a check to the contractor for repairs, right? Maybe not. Maybe not.
So as the mortgage loan officer that works for the bank, I'm cringing right now.
Even if there's repairs, this lady wanted you to done this inspection, and then we know. I mean, she got these.
Okay, so
she want. You know, it's like $1,500 worth of work she wants.
So let's take a step back.
Okay.
That private inspection is for the buyer.
Yes.
Right. Those repairs that she wants are negotiated between you and the buyer.
Right.
We, the bank, never sees that private inspection.
And you don't want to see any parts of it.
We don't want to see any
So
parts
what you
of
would
it.
rather for me to do is to get the money as a seller and then do that afterwards and make that
What I
arrangement.
would rather you do is not tell us anything about that.
Do y'all hear that? Don't mention it.
Because
It's
here's
on the Information Act.
Okay. Don't mention this. We're going to take a break. John, how much more time we got here? We got 10 more minutes. John, I just want to say something while it's fresh, and I hope Facebook is listening. So I can very well say at the time of closing, if y'all will listen to this, to my title company, because I like them wiring my money. Because I get it the same day. Wire $55,000 into this account and give me a check for $2,500. And if the title company give me, they're both in my name. You understand? But they could give me a $2,500 check and they can wire so much. And that's nothing funny about that. You know, you can tell the title company whether that she's laughing. Oh, I don't want to hear this here. I don't want to hear this here. Okay, but y'all understand this. You understand what I'm saying?
So I have to say, the buyer cannot, based on that contract and those closing disclosures and documents that
Right.
we're signing at closing, cannot get cash back at closing.
Absolutely not.
Okay, there we go.
Absolutely not.
So as long as we're clear on that.
Listen, I would not even think about
I
nothing
know.
like that.
I
You
just
understand? You
needed
think
to-
I
No,
would do
I just
something
didn't
like
want
that?
anybody else out there to assume that that could happen.
That $2,000 check, I need to use that check to negotiate to get those repairs done. Okay, y'all, we'll be back. We're not finished yet. I got a dizzler. You don't want to hear. All right, we're back here with Crystal.
So let me just say.
Crystal want to clean some stuff up as her boss is listening. She want to make sure this go down right. Go ahead, Crystal.
Just don't try this stuff by yourself. You have the expert sitting here, right? Get with. You would be surprised at the purchase agreements that I see. That
Tell me about one. Give us an example.
most recently, for sale by owner, real estate investor,
right.
and
For sale by owner. Now
for
listen to
sale
this.
by owner. And the purchase agreement actually stated that the buyer would get $10,000 back at closing.
My God. I'm gonna ask you a question. Facebook, and I mean that's pretty crazy. Now that's somebody trying it home alone, and the bank said, "No, you're
Don't
crazy."
do it.
Up the kitchen.
You know, they blew
it up.
the
You cannot, yeah.
No, what happened? They wouldn't even give them the ingredients to cook. They
No.
wanted to cook and say, "No, we're not giving you
No.
these ingredients to cook." I gotta ask the question to you all, though, who are listening to me. If you were gonna leverage your deal, and you're not going to answer it, obviously, because I'm talking and I can't hear you, but I want to know. I want you to answer it yourself. If you were going to leverage your deal, you know, there's plenty of equity, and there's buoyancy in the marketplace. If you write the deal for 60, it's worth 60. You write it for 70, it's 70. You write it for 80. Now, you can't write it for 200. Let's get that right. But within reasonable amount between what the average mortgages in the community are and what people are buying for, because everything is in such a great flux. Some of the communities went up 500% or 1,000%. Some of them are still staggered, but as soon as one price change, everything jumps and it goes. So it's just all this activity and buoyancy and frenzy in the marketplace. So it's very reasonable you can write up agreements that maybe if the seller agreed to take 50 and you wrote it up for 70, and the seller will cover all your closing costs and all of that in repairs. Well, before I say too much, can you figure out yourself how to take 10 grand out of a deal? Now, this is an inappropriate discussion with a lender. Now, Crystal, please. She doesn't hear this.
I don't hear this.
Can you figure out how to get 10 grand out legally with FHA, just legally, and do it in the right way, where it's not an under-the-table deal? Because remember, you can't do stuff under the table.
No.
You understand? And let me tell you something. If it's not in writing, according to the statute of fraud, it's not enforceable. Person say, I'm not going to do this. So you cannot enforce the transaction. You're going to go through all this mortgage costs and everything else with a handshake deal, and the seller, how about if they change their mind at the end of the day? You understand? So how can you write up a deal, structure a transaction, and legitimately do it under FHA guidelines with full scrutiny? If you don't know how to do it, then get my book and let me be your coach.
That was a good layup.
You understand what I mean? So this is exciting. Crystal, I mean, it's just really, really, really exciting. So a couple of things. Reverse mortgages. What's going on? You guys do them?
We do not.
They do not do reverse mortgages.
Now, let me just say this, though, because I've seen too many instances, and these are reverse mortgages that were done when reverse mortgages came on the scene. There were a
Yeah.
whole lot less guidelines.
Yes.
If you have somebody that's going into a reverse mortgage, please have the exit strategy on the back end. So if this person then dies, what's going to happen to that property? Do we have money to purchase it? Are we just
If
gonna
you
let
plan
it?
to keep it.
If you plan to keep it, right?
You know, and some case, you do a reverse mortgage, your grandmother do it, and she got her grandkids to eat up all her money. You understand? I mean, it's
Yes.
awful. But,
It
one
is.
of the blessing things is that, they can use their money while they're alive. They don't have any more mortgage payments, and that's all good stuff. But let's say if you structure a deal under reverse mortgage, you got to it has to cook for 6 months, but they will not finance seller-held mortgages. It's an amazing thing. One of the biggest mortgage company in Detroit, and I'm guessing you know who that is, they refuse, and the name starts with Q, okay? They refuse to
I don't
do
know what
any
you're talking
land, they refuse to refinance land contracts under a reverse mortgage. I was shocked. I said, why? I mean, am I missing something? We won't do it. We will not refinance land contracts. Now, of course, you can structure the deal where they could have a land contract or a purchase money mortgage. They get the deed and they take a purchase money mortgage and the seller doesn't hold it, someone else holds it. Now that's possible. You can just sell it to someone else and they owe you and let them hold the mortgage and give it to whomever's going to do the finance. But you got to structure it, and it got to be reasonable, it got to be legal, it got to be well thought out, and it can't be slick. We believe in doing deals proper to make sure that they're done, because if someone said this group over here, they're pretty slick. I don't ever want to be slick.
No.
We
Slick
want to
is
be
not
proper.
good.
It's not good.
No.
And I don't want you to be slick. So here's where we want you to do. We want you to come down to Strather Academy and join us, and just join the team. If you don't have any cash, go to sarealestateapp.com. Strather Academy, sarealestateapp.com. Free, 100% free. You can at least join the team, and we can take and keep you abreast as to what happens, because we have all kind of advocacy. And right now, I want to tell you right now what's going on. And Crystal, you haven't given your information.
Yes.
Please tell everybody how to get a hold of you, your name. I mean, they got that, but tell everybody.
It's 313.
Write it down.
410-8260.
8260. Now I want you to tell her that you got this on the Herb Strather show. Because if you do that, she owes me a dinner for each one of you. You understand? And I love to take Crystal out. You got that? I'll tell you that right now all day long. So, Crystal, this is wonderful. I want my audience and all of my friends out here, I want you to support her, because she is knowledgeable too, not just support her because she's cute and she's in the business and she's a lady and she's an entrepreneur and all that, but she's an advocate. She'll help you. She's very helpful. The closings we've had have been really smooth. Everybody love her, and she'll come to the class and she's taught at the class. So this is the kind of quality you get. And yes, she has her guidelines. These are my guidelines. Don't go past this with me. Now you stay on that side of this. But we can do that. But it's important that I know all of her guidelines. You
Right.
got that? If I don't know all of her guidelines, we could have an accident of unbelievable proportion. So I want you to stay tuned with Strather Academy. John, do I have 1 minute to tell everybody about something that's bad?
You have 2 minutes.
I got 2 minutes. Now let me tell you what has happened in the last 12 months, and I did not realize it. So we go down to the sheriff's sale, we buy a house, and sometimes we buy these houses and we redeem them the day before the auction. Like, for example, I got a nice big fat check here. I'm fixed to redeem a house, and this house is on Beaconsfield. And so But Fannie Mae sell their position. They sell the mortgages. Like Fannie Mae foreclosed. They owed 14. The auction. They put it up for auction for 14 grand. But auction.com puts it on, and people bid for it, and they may bid 17,000. Well, they bid 17,000. I'm only obligated to pay 14, and this is a real deal. As soon as this class is over, I'm going down on this house on Beaconsfield, and it was foreclosed in January. You could go online, Detroit Legal News, and look and get the actual address, but I won't put all the information out. And I'm going to pay $14,000 to redeem this house. Now, a gentleman named Stevens or something paid $17,500. Mr. Stevens, you fixed to lose $3,000. I called up the lawyer, and I hollered at them yesterday. Where do Fannie Mae get the nerve to come into our city and do this illegal stuff to sell their position for higher than what they owe? This is the 5th transaction. The 5th transaction, and we're doing 2 of them today that we're resolving. The 5th transaction this has happened. So I want your advocacy. And if you believe me, I want you to send something and say amen. I want you to get it. John, how can people get this tape that I'm talking about right now? They could go on and look us up. How do people
join the mastermind?
Join the mastermind. And all of my tape, you join the mastermind. It's only $45 a month, and it's free till October. So stay till October then. But join the mastermind. Get these things and distribute them. We have people leveraging us, and we're not going to take it anymore. This is Herb Strather, the Herb Strather Show. We're signing off. Crystal, thank you so much.
It's been my pleasure.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
Any old time, honey. You can always come on my show.